The following content is based on real events that occurred in UK academia. UK universities' overseas collaboration leads to major controversy and public backlash. A postdoctoral researcher at a UK university receiving funding from a UK police force for their research into artificial intelligence has been working closely with a professor at an overseas university for the past 6 months. Both academics' research focused on using AI to identify criminality and terrorism through CCTV footage. As a result of their shared research interests, both academics agreed to share their developments and data. To facilitate their collaborative working, the overseas professor suggested that they use a new IT platform developed by their university which had advanced functionality. The UK researcher agreed to host their work, including bulk personal data from the UK police force, on the platform. The situation deteriorated when a UK national newspaper alleged that in collaboration with the UK university, the overseas institution had provided their country's police force with AI technology that could facilitate wide-scale surveillance on minority groups. This technology was reportedly used to support a regime of repression and ill treatment. The fallout was immediate and severe. The UK university's reputation suffered significant damage, facing widespread criticism from the public and academic community. In an attempt to mitigate the situation, the researcher tried to access the overseas university's IT platform to remove the bulk personal data, but was denied access. The researcher reported the incident to their internal IT team, but the damage had already been done. The breach of data security led the UK police force to withdraw funding from multiple projects at the UK university, leaving a trail of disrupted research and financial instability. Considerations may vary slightly, depending on which overseas country is involved in this type of scenario. What can we learn from the UK researcher's story? Under the National Security and Investment Act, the UK government can scrutinise qualifying acquisitions if there is reasonable suspicion of a risk to national security. Acquisitions related to sensitive areas of the economy, such as AI, are more likely to trigger scrutiny. Universities can voluntarily notify the government about an acquisition to determine if it will be called in. The handling of sensitive research and bulk personal data must comply with the Data Protection Act. When sending personal data collected by visual surveillance technology overseas, the Act requires assurances that the overseas jurisdiction's data protection laws are essentially equivalent to the UK's. Knowledge transfer overseas, especially with dual-use application research like AI, may require an export control license, which should be secured before sharing knowledge or data on an overseas IT platform. It's also important to consider whether an export license is required on military end-use grounds, which can apply regardless of the knowledge or good being transferred overseas. Recipients of funding must comply with the associated terms and conditions. These may include conducting due diligence on funding sources and partners, including new members and additional funding streams introduced during the project. The NCSC's guidance on protecting bulk personal data outlines 15 good practice measures. What could the UK researcher have done to mitigate the risks? Conduct open source research on all partners and their funding sources at the outset, and refresh this regularly for the duration of the project. This should be undertaken in conjunction with the research office and/or professional services to ensure a comprehensive understanding of the entities and funding structures involved and the ultimate beneficiary of the research. Get advice from the research office and/or professional services around export licenses, legal obligations, and due diligence. Seek advice from the university's Chief Information Security Officer or the IT department on institutional policies and legal obligations regarding hosting data. They may recommend hosting research data within the institution's network to maintain a higher degree of control over the data. Familiarise themselves with the terms and conditions attached to any information or data received from partners, and ensure that these terms and conditions define acceptable methods and locations for processing, storing, and transporting data. Need more information? Speak to your research office or professional services, and visit the NPSA Trusted Research website.